The Indiana Fever just leaked their starting five, and Sophie Cunningham isn't in it. Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Deanna Bonner, Natasha Howard, and Aaliyah Boston will take the floor first, leaving the veteran sharpshooter coming off the bench. Cunningham's reaction? Not what anyone expected. The bombshell revelation has social media buzzing about what this means for team chemistry with the WNBA's most watched franchise. What, obviously Caitlin Clark's going to be the point guard. Kelsey Mitchell, the shooting guard, the most potent backcourt in the WNBA. I think Deanna Bonner will be the Swiss Army knife kind of player at the 3, while Natasha Howard fills that hole that they had at power forward, especially. They were lacking somebody who could run the floor, catch and finish. Aaliyah Boston is the center who doesn't hunt for shots but can be a key cog on both ends, and then Sophie Cunningham, the first player off the bench, to provide lineup versatility. So the news just dropped and it's official. Sophie Cunningham is getting the bench treatment in favor of Indiana's new super lineup. The Fever starting 5 graphic is making rounds online, and surprise, surprise, Cunningham's name is nowhere to be found. They're rolling with Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Deanna Bonner, Natasha Howard, and Aaliyah Boston. Let's be honest, that's a starting lineup that would make even Las Vegas Aces fans sweat a little. 2 Rookie of the Year winners and 3 max contract players all sharing the court together. The Fever aren't playing around anymore. But the real story here isn't just the star-studded lineup, it's Sophie Cunningham's reaction to finding herself on the bench after being a reliable starter throughout her career. And let me tell you, her response is refreshingly mature. Wait, that's not how these stories usually go. I am really excited, Cunningham said with zero hint of passive-aggressive undertones that we've come to expect from demoted veterans. I didn't come here for the spotlight, I didn't come here to have more eyes. I came here to win, and I really do think that with the group that we have, we are going to win and get a championship. Attitude all the players on the team need to have, because in order for the Fever to achieve the goals that they have in front of them, everyone is going to need to buy into their role, and it's up to Stephanie White to put the best lineups out there, the best lineup combinations, and all of that. Excuse me? Where's the drama? Where's the cryptic Instagram post? The source close to the player leaking discontent to the media? Someone clearly forgot to send Sophie the How to Create Locker Room Tension handbook. Instead, we're getting this level-headed team-first attitude that's honestly throwing everyone for a loop. Cunningham is acting like she's actually happy to be part of something successful rather than starting for a mediocre team. What a concept. When I just kind of heard what they were doing, and of course you have Caitlin, who's drawn eyes from all around the world, I was like, why would I not? Why not be a part of something great? Cunningham explained, this is the part where I'd normally insert a joke about veteran players typically reacting to bench rolls the way vampires react to garlic, but Cunningham is ruining the narrative by being completely reasonable. Let's put this in perspective. We've seen established NBA stars like Allen Iverson declare we talking about practice rather than accept a reduced role. Carmelo Anthony's resistance to coming off the bench in Houston basically ended his time there, but Sophie's over here like, yeah, bench me if it helps us win. No big deal. It's almost like she's a professional or something. The Fever's new starting 5 is legitimately stacked though. Let's break down what each player brings to the table. Caitlin Clark, the basketball phenomenon who needs no introduction. Her passing vision is essentially a cheat code, and she can pull up from the arena parking lot. Defenses are learning that guarding Clark means picking her up the moment she crosses half court, because anywhere within 35 feet is in her range, and sometimes beyond that too. Then there's Kelsey Mitchell, who's quietly been one of the league's most consistent scorers, averaging nearly 20 points per game last season. The Clark-Mitchell backcourt might be the most explosive in the WNBA, combining unmatched range and shot creation ability. At the 3, Deanna Bonner brings the veteran presence and playoff experience this young team desperately needs. Standing 6'4", she's a matchup nightmare who can shoot over smaller defenders and drive past bigger ones. Not to mention her defensive versatility is elite. Natasha Howard, the new addition at power forward, fills a critical hole in Indiana's front court. She's a tenacious defender who thrives on fast breaks and in pick-and-roll actions. Her ability to run the floor and finish strong complements Clark's passing perfectly. And anchoring the paint is 2023's Rookie of the Year Aaliyah Boston. Her refined footwork, strength, and basketball IQ make her a dominant presence under the rim. The connection between Clark and Boston has already shown flashes of becoming one of the most dangerous duos in the league. Head coach Stephanie White hasn't been shy about her excitement for the Clark-Boston pairing in particular. When you think about the great point guards and post players that our game, not just our league but our game, has seen, they are going to go down in history as the greatest. I'm excited about the opportunity to work with them and build for the longevity that those two could have in Indianapolis and hanging banners in this building together. No pressure or anything, right? Just casually suggesting they might become the greatest point guard center duo in basketball history. No big deal. This projected starting five put up over 80 points per game last season, and with Clark now running the show, expect even higher efficiency. Teams like the Aces and Liberty are definitely taking notes. Las Vegas might get exposed in the paint with their smaller lineup, while New York's defensive system could get shredded trying to rotate between all these weapons. But back to Sophie Cunningham, because her reaction to the bench role is legitimately fascinating. In a league where egos often clash and players can get territorial about their roles, Cunningham's team-first mentality stands out. You go from Diana Taurasi and now you're going to a team who is going to be a contender for a championship, she added. I'm stoked about this year. I'm really excited for the players, but I'm also excited just for the community and the relationship and the culture that you guys have here. Championship squads aren't just built with stars, they're built with players who know their role and embrace it. That's what Cunningham brings. Her selflessness is a sign of a changing culture in Indiana, one that's focused on collective success instead of personal stats. And let's be clear, Cunningham isn't some end-of-bench player who should be grateful for any minutes. She's a legitimate threat who could start for plenty of WNBA teams. Her three-point shooting, defensive versatility and veteran leadership make her an ideal sixth woman for this loaded Fever roster. The coaching staff seems to see it that way too. Insiders suggest Cunningham will be the first player off the bench, providing lineup versatility and shooting that could be just as valuable as what the starters bring. Sophie Cunningham will be the first player off the bench because of all the things she can bring to the team. One analyst noted, they can go small with her and spread the floor. You could play Howard at center and Cunningham at the four to really space the floor and give teams a different look. That kind of flexibility is a luxury most WNBA teams don't have. The Fever can adjust on the fly, mixing and matching lineups based on matchups and game situations. Need more shooting? Bring in Cunningham. Need more defense? Lexi Hull is ready. Need rim protection? Brianna Turner can provide that. Speaking of Lexi Hull, she's another key piece coming off Indiana's bench. She's the definition of a relentless defender, applying pressure from baseline to baseline and never easing up. If you need someone to lock down an opposing team's primary score, Hull is the go-to option. Quietly but effectively, Hull led the entire WNBA in three-point shooting percentage last season. She might not be flashy, but whether it's sinking a crucial corner three or flying after a loose ball, Hull's impact is absolutely essential. Then there's Brianna Turner, the hidden gem in the Fever's interior defense. She's not the type to light up the scoreboard, but what she does doesn't show up in stat sheets. Turner sets bone-rattling screens, finishes through traffic and creates open lanes for players like Clark to operate. With defenders chasing shooters out to the arc, Turner exploits the space they leave behind, consistently converting in the paint. Together Hull and Turner form a gritty defensive pairing that keeps the pressure up when the starters need a breather. Hull's non-stop hustle helps sustain a high pace, while Turner protects the rim and crashes the boards. They're the kind of role players championship teams are built around, willing to do the hard work, always locked in and determined to maintain momentum even when the stars are resting. Don't overlook the calming influence of Sydney Colson either. As Clark braces for the grind of her sophomore season, Colson brings poise and steadiness that can't be overstated. Her presence allows Clark to rest without the team missing a beat. Colson knows how to run an offense, manage the game clock, and keep everyone on the same page. The real edge for the Fever, their bench doesn't just maintain intensity, it mirrors the starting lineup in style and execution. When the reserves check in, the system doesn't change, and the pressure doesn't ease. It's like facing a second wave just as dangerous as the first. That kind of relentless consistency is rare in the WNBA and often turns nail-biters into blowouts down the stretch. Speaking of strategy, let's talk about the master plan behind Caitlin Clark's role this season. Indiana isn't interested in your typical point guard setup. Forget the idea of Clark standing still at the top of the key barking out orders. The Fever are going full Steph Curry mode, putting her in constant motion to scramble defenses from the inside out. Coach White's vision is clear. We want to make plays, not run plays. We want to have sets that give us certain spacing depending upon our rotations, who's on the floor, who we want to attack, what matchups we want to get to, how we can manipulate them. Here's the vision. Clark dishes the ball and immediately takes off, cutting backdoor, running through multiple off-ball screens and popping up in unexpected places with that dangerous shooting range. The result? Defenders chasing ghosts while Clark sets up for another 30-footer. It's a workout just trying to stay near her. When you have more weapons, a lot of people are worried. One analyst noted, they have more players who can score, which is going to make it tougher to load up. It was already tougher to load up on Kelsey Mitchell last year because Caitlin Clark was there, and when Kelsey's able to get out and transition, she's so fast, and when she's able to take you one-on-one, there ain't much you can do. And then Clark, the same thing. What are you going to do? You're going to send the whole defense at her again? Well, she's going to pick you apart. It's more than clever, it's lethal. Most WNBA defenses aren't designed to handle a moving shooter like Clark, and with rim attackers like Howard and Bonner who time their cuts beautifully, defenders are forced into impossible choices. Focus on Clark and you get burned inside. Help on the cutters and Clark is left wide open. Even better when Clark is on the move, Bonner and Howard are slashing at just the right moment. If defenses try to switch or hedge, they're immediately punished. And don't forget Hall and Cunningham, both elite from three, ready to punish any defensive rotation that gets lazy or late. This offensive scheme isn't just efficient, it's pure chaos for defenders. 5 scoring threats, all constantly rotating, cutting and reading the defense in real time. Pick and rolls now have 3 layers. Handoffs can turn into backdoor lobs. The floor is spread so wide it feels like a chess game played at warp speed. Every part of this offense is built to confuse, stretch and exploit. As much as the starting 5 seems set, some analysts believe there's a scenario where Cunningham could work her way into that unit. I could potentially see Sophie Cunningham breaking into that starting lineup at different stages during the year. One insider suggested, the timing of all this is particularly interesting given the surprising exit of Tammy Fagbennell. Observers noticed her presence at off-season workouts and team photos, usually a strong sign of players in the team's long-term plans. Even more surprising, she started during the Fever's playoff push last year and played a major role in their defensive presence and rim running game. Do we not remember they had a picture of Stephanie White with 6 players and they were allowed to protect 6 players, and it was Tammy as one of the 6? One commentator questioned, do we not remember that? Turns out, when Indiana submitted its protected list for the expansion draft, Fagbennell wasn't on it. They had 6 slots, plenty of room, but chose to shield Damiris Dantas instead. That raised some eyebrows. No shade to Dantas, she's a quality player, but Fagbennell seemed like the natural fit next to Clark. She runs the floor, defends the paint, finishes inside, and complements the Fever's transition game perfectly. So what gives? Here's one theory: Indiana's front office is playing a long game. The decision to prioritize Dantas could be about flexibility, unlocking different play styles, creating trade options, or mixing up the skill sets on the second unit. Don't be surprised if this move signals another shakeup later in the season. But the bottom line here is that the Fever are loaded. I genuinely think Colson, Hull, Cunningham, Dantas, Turner would actually win versus last year's starting 5. One analyst boldly claimed, because obviously Kelsey Mitchell was injured, Erica Wheeler, Caitlin Clark, just wasn't ready, and she was playing shooting guard a lot of that game. Let's be real, Aliyah Boston was not great coming into the season, and Alyssa Smith was arguably their best player. That's the craziness of that. The Fever are so freaking stacked as a team. That's the real weapon here, depth and flexibility. While most teams are locked into rigid rotations, the Fever can adjust on the fly, mix and match lineups, and keep the energy sky high for all 40 minutes. That could be the difference between making the playoffs and winning it all. Because this isn't just a rebuild, it's a full-on rebirth. With seasoned vets like Bonner, Howard, Colson, Turner, and Cunningham anchoring a young core of Clark, Boston, Mitchell, and Hull, the Indiana Fever are done playing catch-up. They're here to win, and with Clark leading the charge, you'd better believe they're aiming straight for the top. But through it all, Sophie Cunningham's reaction stands out as the most promising sign for Indiana fans. In a league where players often resist reduced roles, her embrace of team success over individual accolades suggests a culture shift that could be the final piece in the championship puzzle. We're going to be a phenomenal group, Cunningham said. I'm excited for all the other pieces that came in this off-season with me. I really am just excited for the big picture of what everyone brings to this team. Basketball history is littered with talented teams that imploded because players couldn't set aside their egos for the greater good. Cunningham's attitude suggests that won't be a problem for the Fever. And in a league where chemistry often matters as much as talent, that could be the difference between another playoff appearance and a championship parade through downtown Indianapolis. So while the headlines will focus on the star power and Indiana's starting lineup, don't overlook the importance of what's happening on the bench. Sophie Cunningham's reaction to her role change might just be the most significant development of all. The Fever's new starting 5 looks lethal on paper, but it's Cunningham's team-first reaction that might win them a championship.